Every electronic device you own just died at the same time. No warning, no flicker, just silence. Your phone is dark, your lights are gone, and something invisible just punched through Earth's magnetic shield. A massive solar storm has arrived, and you had only 8 minutes to prepare before it reached the Earth. Here's the part no one talks about. The storm itself won't kill you directly, but what follows absolutely can. What kills you is everything that happens in the 72 hours after the lights go out. Could you survive a world without electricity? Not for a day, but for months? And what would you actually need to do in the first 60 minutes to stay alive? Most people have no idea this can happen. The fact that you're here means you're already thinking differently. The sun is a rotating ball of plasma, roughly 1,000,000 times the volume of Earth. Its surface churns at 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit, twisted by magnetic field lines that snap and reconnect with explosive force. When those field lines break, they launch a coronal mass ejection, a billion-ton cloud of magnetized plasma hurtling through space. At its fastest, that cloud crosses the 93 million miles between the sun and Earth in under 15 hours. When it arrives, it slams into our magnetosphere, the invisible magnetic bubble that protects all life on this planet. Most of the time, Earth's shield holds. But every so often, the storm is strong enough to break through. In March 1989, a geomagnetic storm knocked out power across the entire province of Quebec in 90 seconds. 6 million people lost electricity. Transformers overheated. The grid collapsed like dominoes falling across a continent. That was a moderate storm. Now imagine one 10 times stronger. That's not hypothetical. It already happened. And what it did sounds almost impossible. In 1859, the Carrington Event sent telegraph lines sparking so violently that operators received electric shocks. Some telegraph machines kept transmitting after being disconnected from their batteries, powered by the storm itself. If a Carrington-scale event hit today, estimates suggest damage between $1 and $2 trillion in the first year alone. So here's where Cato enters the picture. The lights flicker, his phone reboots, and the power cuts out complete. Cato does what anyone would do. He reaches for his phone and tries to call someone. Nothing. No signal, no data, no connection. But that's not his real mistake. Not even close to his worst decision. His real mistake is assuming the power will come back in a few hours. So he opens the fridge to grab food. Here's why that choice costs him. During a long-duration blackout, your refrigerator keeps food safe for about 4 hours, if you never open the door. Every time you open it, warm air floods in. The internal temperature rises past 40 degrees Fahrenheit within minutes. Bacteria like Salmonella double their population every 20 minutes above that threshold. Cato just accelerated his own food spoiling. But we'll come back to what Cato should have done instead. First, here's something that genuinely fascinated me. The northern lights, the aurora borealis, are actually the visible signature of solar particles colliding with atmospheric gases. During the Carrington event, the aurora was seen as far south as the Caribbean and Colombia. People in the Rocky Mountains woke up and started making breakfast because the sky was so bright they thought it was dawn. The same physics that paints the sky with green and violet light is what fries the electrical grid beneath your feet. Beautiful and destructive. The same phenomenon, just a matter of intensity. Now back to why you should be worried. Here's where the science gets wild. A geomagnetic storm doesn't just cut your power. It induces electrical currents directly into the ground. These geomagnetically induced currents flow through anything conductive: pipelines, railroad tracks, and most critically, high-voltage transformer windings. Those transformers are the backbone of every national power grid. They weigh up to 400 tons each. They are custom-built, not mass-produced. Replacing a single one takes 12 to 18 months, if the factories still have power. Now imagine you are there. Day one without electricity. No lights, no internet, no cell towers, no ATMs. Gas stations can't pump fuel. Their pumps are electric. Water treatment plants go offline. Traffic signals are dead. What would you do? Stay in the city where supplies exist, but millions of people are competing for them, or leave for a rural area immediately. By day 3, grocery stores are empty. Not gradually. Studies of past blackouts show shelves clear within 72 hours. Hospitals switch to backup generators, but most carry only 48 to 72 hours of diesel fuel. Here's where it gets personal. If someone near you depends on refrigerated medication, insulin for example, you now have a crisis measured in hours. Now here's what surprised me when I researched this. Your biggest ally during a solar storm isn't a bunker or a weapon. It's a Faraday cage, and you probably already own several of them without even knowing it right now. A microwave oven, when unplugged, acts as a basic Faraday cage. Its metal mesh screen blocks external electromagnetic fields. Wrapping a small radio or USB drive in 3 layers of aluminum foil with cardboard between each layer creates a functional shield. The physics is elegant. The conductive enclosure distributes the electromagnetic charge around the outside, leaving the interior field at nearly zero. That means a $15 AM radio wrapped in foil could be your only connection to emergency broadcasts when everything else is dead. Back to the escalation, because the grid failure is only the first domino. Quick, before I tell you, how long do you think a modern city can function without running water? Most people guess a week. The real answer? About 24 to 48 hours. Without electric pumps, water towers drain and pressure drops to zero. No tap water means no flushing toilets. Within days, sanitation collapses. Historically, waterborne disease follows power failures within 2 weeks. Now multiply this by every city on the sunlit side of the planet. A Carrington-scale storm wouldn't just hit your neighborhood. Earth's rotation means about half the planet faces the sun at the moment of impact. Every grid in that hemisphere is at risk simultaneously. Supply chains stretch across continents. Even regions spared the direct hit depend on parts, fuel, and food from regions that weren't. This is the part that blew my mind. A severe solar storm is one of the only natural disasters that gets worse the more advanced your civilization becomes. A farming village in 1859 barely noticed the Carrington Event. A connected digital society in the same storm could collapse in weeks. The more technology you depend on, the more vulnerable you become. Your convenience is your fragility. And right now, the sun is approaching solar maximum, the peak of its roughly 11-year activity cycle. Agencies like NOAA's Space Weather Prediction Center monitor solar activity constantly. But warning time for a fast coronal mass ejection can be as little as 15 minutes. 15 minutes. That's what stands between normal life and a world without electricity for potentially months. So what exactly should you do with those 15 minutes? So let's rewind. Cato is back at the beginning, but this time, he knows the science. The lights cut. His phone dies. This time, Cato doesn't touch the fridge. He grabs a bag and fills it from the tap immediately because he knows the water pumps are electric. And every minute that passes, the pressure in the pipes drops closer to nothing. He wraps his battery-powered radio in foil before the electromagnetic pulse peaks. He locates his family's medications and packs a cooler with ice. He checks on his neighbor, an elderly woman who lives alone, because he knows the most dangerous part of any blackout isn't the dark, it's the isolation. People who panic alone make fatal mistakes. People with information and community survive. Remember, 1. Fill every container you own with tap water immediately, before the pumps lose pressure. 2. Protect one battery-powered AM radio in a foil-wrapped Faraday cage for emergency broadcasts. 3. Secure critical medications and perishable food in insulated coolers without opening the fridge repeatedly. 4. Check on vulnerable neighbors and share what you know. Survival compounds when people cooperate, in that order. Without the knowledge, Cato sits in a dark apartment eating food that's slowly poisoning him, waiting for a rescue that could take months. With the knowledge, he has water, information, a community, and a plan. The storm is the same. The outcome is entirely different. Now you know something that could save your life, and most people never will. Type 15 minutes in the comments if you'll remember how little warning time you might actually get. Send this to someone who's never thought about what happens when the entire grid goes dark. They need to see this video before the next storm cycle peaks. Here's a question. What modern convenience would be the most dangerous to suddenly lose? Electricity, running water, or the internet? Tell me below. Now you know. Now you're ready. A solar storm takes away your power, but it cannot take away your knowledge or your preparation. But what happens when the thing keeping you alive at 30,000 feet suddenly fails? Your body versus a plane crash, second by second. That's next.